Welcome to Tone Bros. My name's Casey.
And I'm Colin. We're going to get started with our current topic. Casey.
All right, I'm going to try to lead us off here with the new Fender.
Here we go.
Susan Tedeschi signature Telecaster.
Perfect. That's actually pretty good.
Okay, Tedeschi. Boy, that's a tough one. So you know more about this than I do right now. You've looked at more of the specifics. It's $18.99. It's a signature Tele from her. You want to give me a little bit of the specs? I've seen pictures of it. That's all I've seen so far.
It's a beautiful guitar.
So this is going to be like a new reaction from me.
Yeah, it's a new guitar.
Yeah. Is it USA made? Do we know anything?
USA made.
Yeah, cool.
$18.99. Got a poly finish.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
And it's based off of, because this is vintage now, a 1993 Telecaster American Standard. That's vintage now.
What? A 93 Standard?
93 Standard. I wish I was making this up.
Oh my gosh.
So, it's not nitro.
Oh.
It's got a 9.5 quarter radius, or 9.5 quarter. I don't know what I'm saying. A 9.5 inch radius. Let's see. It's a poly finish. I don't know about the pickups, but the tone control is apparently different. It's a TBX, whatever TBX means. I guess it changes some of the high frequencies and the lows and stuff like that.
Tone below xylophones.
That's it. But it's seriously based off of 93 because apparently that's vintage now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about this. I don't have anything good to say about that.
You know what? This is around the American professional series prices.
Why wouldn't you just buy it if you like that so much? Why wouldn't you buy a 93 Telecaster for cheaper?
Because this is new.
The silence was deafening.
It's new, and it's a cool color, and it's a signature.
Okay.
Hey, Susan is an awesome person.
Oh yeah, Susan Tedeschi.
I'm pretending like I know her.
She probably is a great person.
You know what? She's with Derek Trucks, so I mean,
she's got to be good.
She's super smart.
I mean, clearly she's gonna be a good guitar player just from being around him.
Her voice is amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? Why hasn't Fender done a Muddy Waters Tele?
There's a million Teles they could do. Why are they doing this?
Because
does anyone know her?
1993 is vintage.
Does anyone
You got
know her?
to get those guitars out.
No one knows her.
Yes, first of all, a lot of people know her. You're going to make everybody mad, including me.
Yeah.
Because
you knew that she had a 93 Telecaster that you really wanted bad?
Actually,
that's what I'm talking about.
To be fair, I did know she had a 93 Tele before this whole thing.
I knew she had a Tele.
It's a green one.
Yeah, that's all I knew.
It's a cool color.
Yeah.
It's got a tortoiseshell kind of pick guard.
Cool.
It's a cool looking guitar.
I feel like mean. Like, I'm not trying to be mean towards the lady. She seems like a nice lady and stuff.
She's a nice lady.
She's nice.
As I'm toppling everything over.
Yeah.
No, for real. It is kind of one of those signatures you're like, I'm confused because it's a 93 standard. Like, it's not like one of those Harken years where you're like, holy cow.
It's 21 years old, right?
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
I don't know. No, 93.
No, 31 years old.
31. Woo. And I agree with you.
31 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, okay.
Here's what I want to say. I bet her guitar's great. And I bet, I think there is a reason to have a signature of hers.
That's like in 1990 getting a signature 59 Les Paul.
Let's not think about that.
Wow.
Let's not think about that.
Time is weird.
But Susan deserves a signature because she is excellent. But I don't know who's going to go out there and be like, yay, a 93 Tele. That's a standard.
No guitar player.
So, to me, like, why not go get the professional? Professional
why
2
why wouldn't you buy the Professional 2 or the Ultra or whatever?
I mean, you're going to be a Susan Tedeschi fan.
That's the only, is it limited edition?
I don't think so. I think it's production model.
Well, good luck.
Hey, first of all, I want to say She's amazing. I think the guitar is really cool. I'm just kind of confused on...
Do you think the guitar is cool?
I do too.
I don't.
You barely even looked at it.
So it's a 93 standard though, right? There's nothing special she's done.
There's
it's still
really
all
not.
poly.
Well, the TBX tone thing.
Okay, there's a tone thing that I probably won't like. I like my standard tone knobs because we've talked about it before. We play with our tone knobs and volume knobs a lot, and I like the interaction I've got out of my standard knobs. Not to say I wouldn't be open to different things because I'm open to treble bleeds and stuff, but likelihood I probably won't like it.
You probably won't, but there's probably a lot of people out there that would like it.
Probably. I don't know if they'll ever get to play them because I mean, let's talk about this. Guitar Center. They find out this is being released. Guitar Center usually buys all kinds of stuff. Like when the Brad Paisley signature stuff came out, they bought a bunch of them to ship to different shops. How many are they going to buy?
You might be surprised. They bought that Dragon Telecaster, the Jimmy Page Dragon Telecaster.
Are you trying to compare Susan Tedeschi to Jimmy Page?
I was just in the
I'm going to walk out of here.
In the heat of the moment, that's what came out of my mouth. What about the Lincoln Brewster Strat? They bought some of those. No one really... I know Susan Tedeschi a lot more than Lincoln Brewster.
Oh, I think they've all about the same. All about the same.
I disagree, Bob.
Okay. Well, I think it sucks. I think it sucks because...
I think you feel like it sucks because you're getting old. Older. Sorry.
It's okay.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe I'm an old fogey, and 93 to me sounds like... I remember playing those 93 Teles. And
there's some good ones.
There's some good ones, but there's a whole lot more crappy ones.
You know what? If they did a 93 Japanese made one,
I would be interested.
It'd be a little lower price point too.
I would be interested.
If it was a Japanese one.
Those Japanese guitars they're putting out now are fantastic too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would much rather have one of those Japanese.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a step in the right direction for Fender. We've talked about Fender signature stuff before.
I think it's the right kind of artist, though.
Well, you might be right. It might be the right artist.
I think it's the right kind of artist.
Is there any other females that have signature Telecasters?
Well, her has a Strat.
Yeah, her's got a Strat.
Who? Chrissy Hind has a
Tele.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Chrissy Hind. I'm sure there are
I was going to
others.
say maybe this is the first one that's came out with a Telecaster, which would be kind of cool.
That would be cool, but no, Chrissy Hind has one.
Okay. Well, close. You know what they say. Second is just the first loser.
Okay. Glad we've solved that mystery.
All right. Anyway.
Let's go on to the first topic before we get in trouble. Okay. Boost pedals.
Yeah.
There's a bunch out there.
Yeah.
And I think...
I would say so.
there's a lot out there. And I think we need to clarify in our minds, because I feel like we might be different than the general public sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All the different types of boost pedals that are actually out there.
Yeah.
And what are the purpose really for each one. Okay? So I'm going to hit you with a few types.
Okay.
I say a few. It's like 6.
Okay.
6 types and why you might use one over the other.
Okay. I'm supposed to be given the description of why I would use one over the other.
Yep. And I'm going to give you examples of pedals.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sounds good. What my reason for using them will probably be different than a lot of people's, but it'll be a good observation for how my mind works, which is dangerous.
Okay. Well, thanks for making this like more of a dull segment, but here we are.
Okay.
Boost number 1. Boost pedal number 1. Just a straight clean boost. So, for example, a Keeley Katana, not with the knob pulled out, a Keeley Katana or an RC booster. I would consider those a straight clean boost.
As clean as they can be, because there's no such thing as a real clean boost, right? We all know that.
Right.
But if you're playing into a super clean amp with tons of headroom and you want to like just get more volume, I would say that is a clean boost, absolutely.
And I'd say if you want to get your like individual notes heard a little more,
yeah,
those are the pedals to get.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say you better be concerned with your amp's headroom, first of all.
Okay.
And also you better be concerned where you put in your chain. If you're running an overdrive pedal, and you try to put that clean boost before the overdrive pedal, it's just going to push that overdrive pedal into more overdrive. If you put it after the pedal, you'll get more of a clean boost then.
More volume.
More volume for like a solo boost or something like that. So yeah, that's where I would kind of put them. I could almost put them as, some people use them as always on pedals too.
Yeah, which goes into my next boost category, always on in my eyes, which would be like Josh Smith uses that Chula pedal.
Yeah.
Love pedal Church of Tone. I feel like that is an always on.
Okay.
I think a long time ago there was the How Rush Driver, and they might still be making that.
Yeah. I think actually
it's one knob.
Mythos is making that for them now.
Okay.
I think they stopped making it.
It's like one knob,
one?
and
Maybe.
It typically is an always on type of thing.
Yeah, I would put EP booster in that same category. A lot of guys are using those EP boosters.
Okay.
I'm not saying it should be an always on or something like that. RC booster is another pedal that a lot of people use. It was in the last category. It kind of flows in between. So for me, there was a time period where I was using an RC booster as an always on pedal. And it just kind of gave a little more life, a little bit more sparkle to my sound. Also, it kind of gave me the ability to tweak a little bit of the tone because I had that treble and bass knob. So I could kind of tweak it from like venue to venue or spot to spot.
Which is nice in comparison to the Katana, which you just have a knob.
It's just a single knob. And a lot of those like clean boosts that they have out there are just like a straight up volume knob. And you don't get any options, to change anything else. It is kind of nice to have a little bit of a tone stack. But always on pedals, yeah, I think of those things. I know some people were using those super hard-ons for a long time as like an always on pedal too.
So, which goes into my next topic.
Mm-hmm.
Like a dirty boost.
Yeah.
Meaning it boosts your signal, but it adds a little bit of grit.
Yeah.
So, the super hard-on, that would be one from ZVEX.
Yep.
Analog Man Bad Bob.
Yep.
That's probably going to add even more grit.
Yeah, even more.
Similar to the super hard-on, I would say probably the TC Electronic Spark.
Yeah.
That would be kind of in that category too.
Yep. Yeah, I think for those dirty boosts, I think picking the right frequency for those pedals is a big thing.
Yep.
So I've got that Bad Bob, and I love that thing in my Marshall. And I plug it into my Fender, and I go, no way.
A little too much bottom end.
It's just too much bottom end. It's a great dirty boost. But for me, and the way I set my amp and the way I set my pedals, it just doesn't work.
And I tell you what, you go to a Fender Tweed, though, that Bad Bob sounds great.
It's a Bad Bob.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think dirty boost, that's probably some of my favorite boost pedals.
Me too.
If you're out there looking for an overdrive pedal, probably just look at a dirty boost. Look at some type of boost pedal, because really, that's probably what you're wanting out of the deal.
But just be careful, because they will put their own, flavor on your signal.
Yes.
Because, the Bad Bob adds a totally different, almost tonality to it.
Yeah.
Same with Super Hard On.
Yep.
The next one, so you might think about treble boosters.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the Beano Boost,
Yep.
the Naga Viper?
Yep, Naga Viper.
Treble boost pedals. So when would you use that?
Well, for me, I'm not a big treble booster guy because the amps I use. So my Marshall, I can use a treble booster into that. You better have your amp overdriving well. Otherwise, we plugged a treble booster one time into a Fender Twin.
Not the sound you want.
That is not the sound you want.
Nope.
You don't want something with a lot of clean headroom. So it's kind of the opposite of the clean boost pedals. You want your amp overdriving, or at least a pedal overdriving pretty hard, and then you want this before that. So a lot of those Vox players will use treble boosters into a Tweed. A treble booster is glorious. Into a cranked up Marshall, it's really good. And then some of the Beano boosts and Naga Vipers and things like that, they've either got tone controls or they've got little clipping stages you can switch. Not clipping stages, but they've got like EQ stages. And you can kind of change the frequency of that treble booster to match your amp a little bit more. But yes, definitely into an overdriven amp.
Yep. And then the next section is mid-boost pedals. So I'd put the Tube Screamer in this category.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so mid-boost pedals. Yeah, I think of Tube Screamers for sure.
You might even think Blues Breaker style pedals.
Yeah, and then get into like the Bad Monkeys and all the variants for Tube Screamers and things like that. I would look for something that's, for me personally, I would look for something that's kind of mid-scooped You think of like black faces when you think of stuff like that. Also, if you're playing a guitar that's like a Strat, that's my first initial like, oh, I'm going to fill something, because it's pretty mid-scooped playing a Strat. And whenever you fill in those mids, it really pushes you out in front a little bit more, helps you get there. That's where I would think mid boost.
Sure. And then the very last one, I feel like people forget about for a true boost pedal, the EQ.
Yeah, so I think the EQ is the greatest boost pedal of all.
Yeah.
I could put the EQ in just about every one of those categories.
Right.
There's a couple times I was thinking about it and didn't say it. I didn't realize it was going to be up there. But as a category, however, if you want a really clean boost, you lay everything flat and pump that in there, and you've got that. If you want kind of a dirty boost, well, you just pump that drive up a little bit more, or that level up a little bit more. You'll get some more drive out of it. If you want a mid punchy thing, you bump the mids up. If you just want something to kind of shape your sound as an always on, you could do that too. So whenever it comes to all around boosts, I think the greatest boost of all time is probably the EQ.
Yeah, with the EQ,
if you know how to use it.
Sure, and I think it's another thing too. Something else to think about is if you're using it as like a clean boost and thinking about that headroom in your amp too. Because if the amp is cooking and you turn up the level on that EQ, you're just going to get more drive.
Yeah. It's the old Phil X saying. Like, he always used to ask people about clean boost all the time. And somebody'd say, hey, I got this great clean boost pedal. You should check it out. It's great for solos. He'd say, okay, well, if I've got my 100-watt Marshall cranked on 10 and I turn it on, how much clean am I going to get? How much louder is it going to get? And the guy, inevitably the person's like, oh, it won't get any louder. Like, well, then it's not a clean boost pedal. There's no such thing as a clean boost, which there is if you've got the right headroom. But, yeah, you got to make sure you've got the right headroom for stuff like that. I think probably the EQ is my favorite of the bunch, but depending on the situation and your amps and your guitars, it really dictates what you're using.
And to me, the EQ is almost too much to finagle, so I like the dirty boost the most.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
well, I'm going to move on to gas or pass, right?
Yep.
All right, so my gas or pass, I'm going to talk about and bring up the Strymon Timeline. So $449 is what this pedal goes for. I've actually, as long as this pedal's been out, I've stayed away from it. I've not bought one. I've not played one, I don't think. I've played a bunch of Strymon pedals, I guess, at this point, but not a Timeline. It's a little bit intimidating at first, whenever I first seen it.
So what's the difference in this Timeline?
Well, this is the standard Timeline. I'm talking about the regular Timeline.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the new Big Sky that just came out.
Oh, gotcha.
So this is just the Timeline. And, I mean, it's one of those things I've kind of looked at multiple times and thought, well, I could get a lot of my delay sounds out of this thing, but do I want to fiddle with it? So where does it fall for you? Is it a gas or pass?
I am interested in it. And actually, it's cheaper than I thought it'd be.
Right. Just under $500.
It's really not terrible for everything that you get in the package. And you can get anything you want out of it. I think just purely for its flexibility and having pretty much anything you want out of it, it has to be a gas.
Yeah.
And I haven't even looked at the used market. But if it's $449 like brand new, then used is around $350, $400.
Yeah, probably even $300 if you really search hard.
So, I mean, I think it would almost have to be something people are interested in. Like, I would be interested in it just literally for the Memory Man sound.
Yeah.
I mean, if Andy Timmons used it religiously for years, I mean, I should probably check it out.
Yeah, I feel like conflicted with this. It's... Yeah, I don't feel overwhelmed with how much is on it now because I kind of understand how it works. I've seen it work enough that I kind of get it. Mm-hmm. But it kind of feels, I don't want to say outdated because it's not. I mean, it's been out for a long time at this point. But it just feels like there's so many other options out there right now that it is not like the go-to option for me now.
So I would put the Timeline, and I'm just speaking out loud here, I would put the Timeline in the same category as like an Eventide time factor.
Yeah.
John Mayer used that on Continuum.
Right.
It's got an amazing sound.
Mm-hmm.
It does a lot of things.
Yep.
I feel like the Timeline's kind of in that same category.
Right.
So I would put it in like, it is a wonderful tool. I will never put it on my board, mostly because it's too big. And like, you know, you can find smaller pedals that do a niche thing that I enjoy just as much.
Right. Yeah, and for me, I think I would rather have 2 delay pedals or even 3 delay pedals on my board that do those niche things that I would be happier with than what I would one single pedal that does it all like that. There's some pedals I feel differently about, but there's something about the Timeline that just doesn't, like, it's uninteresting to me.
Well, if what it is, Casey, is you feel like it's a preset bank. That's what you're going to feel like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have this song for this sound. And I think if you had the Timeline, you would actually probably love it.
Maybe.
If you dug into it. But you're going to feel like you're going through the motions, probably.
Yeah. I kind of worry about that. You know, I've talked about the DD500 before, too, and the Boss makes, and it's kind of similar, too.
Right.
And that, you know, it's kind of older now, too. They're due for, you know, a revamp of that line. And it's kind of lost its, like, charm to me for some reason. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, maybe it is the thought of it just going through banks. And that's... I'd rather have something simple, you know, a couple different things, or even, I don't know. There's a lot of pedals out there that's doing delay really well right now, to the point to where the Timeline is kind of meh for me at this point.
Maybe, yeah, there's just a lot of options out there for the time being, and you're just like, you know, if it's not a need, then you're not worried about it.
Yeah, so it's a pass for me.
Okay. I think, again, as I always say, if it's a good enough deal, I'm there for it.
Yeah, okay. Well, you want to move to your gas or pass?
So my gas or pass has to do with the classic Jimmy Page amp. Not the one you're probably thinking of, but the OR50.
Oh, okay.
I think even Paul Kossoff used it for a little while.
Yeah, he used some Orange stuff for a while.
So Orange, I don't think they sell it currently, but they did a limited run of OR50s.
Yep.
Probably around, I think it was around $1,700.
Okay.
And it's that classic amp that Paul Kossoff, Jimmy Page played.
Yeah.
And I love Orangeamps. They are a bit more fuzzy than a traditional Marshall. But, man, there's some great classic tones on those amps. What are your thoughts? Are you interested?
So, why aren't they making that? Like, why? Like,
well, they had the OR50.
Yeah.
They had the OR15, and that was like, you know, they've had that out for a while, and that's, what, $600 roughly?
Yeah.
And then now I think they have the OR30, which, honestly, the OR30 is a more manageable wattage.
It is, but it is weird to me that they're not making that amp that is so classic, you know, as a reissue or something. But anyway, that's not the point of this segment. You know, gas or pass for me. Whenever I look at the OR50, at that price point, too, it's pretty dang good.
It's really not bad for a classic amp.
Yeah. I struggle a little bit more with the orange sound than you do. That fuzziness bothers me.
I love it.
I know you love it. It's, for me, it's kind of a turnoff. Like, it just, ugh. There's just something about it. Even the OR15s and stuff, that when I've played them, I've always thought, oh, it sounds really good. And then there's a point in the drive at like 10 o'clock or something where it starts, you can hear the fuzziness kind of velvety, kind of fuzzy sound come in. And whenever it comes in, I'm like, oh, it sounded so good. I thought it was really going to open up and sound good. There's something about it that just kind of is off-putting to me. But... man, I love me a Paul Kossoff. Mm-hmm. You know, I love some of those classic tones. So, I think probably an OR50 is a pass. I've got a 50-watt Marshall, and it just about takes my head off and will do all the work I need it to do. So, for me, it's probably a pass. But, boy, that would be a great amp.
It would be awesome. Which is why I've really looked at that and the OR15 just as a plug-and-go type of amp. But I think an OR50 would be awesome just because even just the nostalgia of it. I mean, almost all of our heroes have played that. So.
I mean, in the orange cab to match it.
Yeah.
How cool are those orange cabs?
They are cool.
My gosh, dang.
Yeah.
Orange stuff's amazing. It really is. It sounds great.
And it's usually really expensive, but this OR50 is not that bad.
Not right now. Whenever they reissue it, one day, which hopefully they do, you probably drive prices up. It's interesting how that works. Sometimes they reissue something and all of a sudden the originals get more expensive too. But yeah, for me, I would give it a pass. But I'm kind of, I tell you what, if it came at I'm going to take your saying, if it came in at the right price, if I could fall into one for $1,200 or something one day,
right,
I'd probably gas on that thing. I'd probably jump on it. Mm-hmm. So is it a gas or pass for you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's a gas for sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to move to this main topic then. And this is one that is weird to me. So I want you to explain this to me.
Okay.
Why in the world, this is going to take some splaining.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. So if we think about this, we were just talking here a while back, and 31 years ago would have been a 59 Les Paul in 1990, right? So if you were living in 1990,
Okay.
31 years before that was a 59 Les Paul.
Wait, in 1999?
In 1990.
1990, okay.
So by that point, we knew those 59 Les Pauls were good.
Is that right?
Yeah.
59, 30 years
59,
is 89.
69, 79, 89, and then 1 year, 90.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. 31 years.
Mathing.
So, mathing. I got to use my fingers.
Anyways.
So, they were 31 years old. The cat was out of the bag. We all knew those guitars were amazing. They were shooting up in price, right?
Sure.
Even in the 70s, like 15 years later, less than 20 years later for sure, we knew those guitars were special. We knew those 50s Les Pauls and 50s Teles and Strats were amazing. Mm-hmm. So, as they've aged, they've gotten nothing but better, kind of like fine wine, right? Mm-hmm. Why, when we look at a 93 Telecaster, like we were just talking about earlier,
right,
31 years old, the same timeline, why in the world aren't those guitars aging and as sought after anymore? Like, you would think if they were being made to similar specs, like the Gibson reissues of 1990 and 89 when they first started the custom shop and started doing the historics, why in the world aren't those Les Pauls aging and aren't as special as those 59 Les Pauls?
Because they're not made with the same quality parts.
Yeah, but supposedly so many of these Les Pauls and stuff are now, right?
Are now?
Okay, well, even 10, 15 years ago, whenever we were making these made-to-measure Les Pauls, which they've went up a lot in price.
I don't think they have truly... So, you know, you think about, especially late 50s, that's the golden era of Gibson.
Right. Late 50s for Gibson and all of 50s, really, and 60s for Fender, right?
I was about to say, from 54 to 64.
Yeah, those 52 sucked.
You're right. Yeah, 50 to 68.
Yeah. Anyway, I know what you're saying.
Anyways, now you got me lost on my train of thought. I would say that Gibson hasn't put out a product, or did not put out a product, that was as equal to those late 50s guitars, like as close as possible with as much love and care until about 2012.
Okay.
And even then, 2015, that was not a great time period when they did those 100th anniversary.
No, but I think their custom
guitars.
shop was on
maybe,
par.
Maybe 2019 when What's-His-Face was a part of it.
Yeah, Caesar.
When he was a part of it.
Caesar salad?
I don't know. Anyways, be nice. When 2019 hit and they did more like spec after spec, measured everything.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a closer recreation than since then, 2019, when they started all that stuff.
So do you think in 20 years from now, those guitars will be as sought after as those 59 Les Pauls were 20 years after they were built?
Of course they're not going to be.
Well, 20 years after they were built. Right?
They're not going to be as sought after because they're not a 1959 Les Paul.
Yeah, but in 79, they were just a used guitar. Right? In 1979, they were just a used guitar. So in 20 years from now, are those guitars going to be just a used guitar? Or are they going to be super sought after?
They're going to be just a used guitar.
Yeah.
Because they're not a 1959 or 1958.
They're just
a recreation. Now, am I going to say that their price will not fluctuate up? No, because we know that prices will increase over time.
Right.
Do I think that maybe they'll even get even further up because of their craftsmanship?
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility. But they will never get to the prices that 5958s are just because of the history of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't think they'll ever be to the price of them either. But it's just weird to me that we can't do it again.
Part of me wonders if there's more restrictions on how they're building guitars now than ever before. You know, like Nitro, they're trying to limit that.
Yeah, but even these
having enough rosewood,
these one-off guys that are making guitars,
they can't get it right.
They can't do it either.
Right.
Like, is it that? I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, because it's clearly super hard to do. But what in the world is it that was in the water for those, 15 years?
I don't think it was what was in the water. I think it was what was in the trees. Because the trees that we're using now is not the same trees that we used in the 50s whenever they were on this planet for who knows how long.
Did we just run out in 65, 66, 67? Did we just start running out of them, out of the good trees?
You're asking the wrong person, but I know it's hard to find good wood.
It's just weird to me.
Sometimes you got to search to find some good wood.
Well, that's true. So, Gruen's makes some acoustic guitars with sinker mahogany. Have you looked into that at all?
So, yes.
They are cool.
They are fantastic.
So, super old wood, 100-year-old wood at this point. So, that's supposed to be great, but the guitars aren't even aging, it seems like, the same way those 50s guitars were. Even when they're made with nitro and done all the same way. Maybe it's the regulations and stuff that's not allowing people. But you would think somebody would have built something that seems to age and sound and stuff like those guitars at some point.
I don't know. I think there's so many, not even just the wood in the guitars now.
The pickups and the
exactly.
wire and the pots and everything.
It's all sourced probably different now, so now they're trying to figure out what's the most comparable. I mean, I don't think there'll be any way there will be a guitar that was made as respectably as those guitars were.
I do think that Gibson, Martin, and Fender are making the best guitars they've made since the golden era right now.
Completely.
There's no doubt in my mind they're making the best guitars they've ever made since then. It's just weird to me. You pick up those old guitars, and they're different. Mm-hmm. And it's not just because they're old. So I've picked up plenty of old guitars that suck, too.
Well, and I think there's also a difference in, back in the day, a 70s guitar was a piece of junk. And now, look at the prices of 70s guitars.
What happened?
People think they're the best thing since sliced bread.
It's wild.
And it's a 3-bolt Fender whatever.
Yeah, boat anchors a lot of times.
Right.
And they're just...
So, I think that comes into play, too, because what people consider a good guitar from then to the 50s and stuff like that, that's all changed, too. So, but... the parts that we have just, I don't think, can equate to what was available back then.
Yeah. It's just, it's a weird thing to me that we can't figure it out.
With all the technology.
With everything we've got now, it's not like it's gone, like the Titanic, we can't hardly get to it, and they're we've only got pictures of them. There's these ancient scrolls, and we've got to decipher. No, we've got the guitars.
Right.
We can literally check them out. We know exactly how they were made. Martin has impeccable documents on how they made everything, where it all came from, where it went. Their documents are really good. Gibson and Fender, not so much. But they've got enough documents to know exactly.
You don't have brass saddles out, use steel. That'll be fine.
That's right. Oh, we got these rolled steel. Oh, let's switch to solid steel. But no, it's a shame. It's really a shame that we can't figure it out. I don't know that they'll ever be the same. And I don't think any of the new guitars are going to age like the old guitars did. There's just something different.
I think that they're making the best quality product with what they can.
Yeah. It's just a regulation thing at this point, right?
That or availability. I just don't think it's out there. Just think of the Oh, the transistors. You can't find NKTs anymore, really.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff's going away. All the capacitors and all that stuff is getting harder to find. Well, at that time, it was like military grade stuff, right? They were using, even all the way down to tubes and things. But, no, I just, I don't know. I think the made-to-measure stuff, and I think the Murphy Lab stuff they're coming out with is great right now. Mm-hmm. Some of it's a little much, a little bit funky to me. Murphy Lab stuff in particular.
Okay.
But I think it's the best stuff we've ever made. I think it's as close as we've ever gotten, for sure.
That they have. Don't act like you're building the guitar.
Well, I mean, just as like society. Like, I think it's the closest to the society's ever gotten to those, golden era guitars. Martin's golden era was a different time period, kind of.
30s.
Yeah, it was like 30s up to like 45 is kind of the sweet spot, which is kind of interesting that theirs would be so much different.
I don't know. I think we're hashing on the same thing at this point, but it's one of those tricky things where we don't have the opportunity to make them better because of our supplies, or is it we truly just cannot figure out why they're so amazing?
It's like the pyramids, dude. I mean, we don't get it.
Was it the chicken or the egg?
Well, yeah. Did the aliens make the pyramids? Where did these pyramids come from?
Who made Stonehenge? That's what I want to know.
Who made Stonehenge?
Who did that? Because no person could have lifted that.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty strong.
Unless He-Man was out there.
He-Man. Power of Grayskull. So, yeah. So, maybe the aliens made the guitars.
That's it. That's what we're going with.
Aliens made the guitars. We'll never see guitars so great because aliens made them.
That's right. Don't you forget it. You heard it here first.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.